Welcome home to Eden, love. Here we are. We're going to begin this day in a new way. Fall is here. Things are ending, which is good because you're ready now for the new beginning. You've made it through some tests. You think you failed, but you didn't. And you were just wondering about love. Unconditional love, like, does it exist? How do we pull it off? Am I deserving of it? Can I even ever find such a thing in myself, in another, that has that quality of the mother, the father, who love truly? Well, the thing is, I watched this whole thing unfold between two lovers this week, and I was very fascinated to see how the misunderstandings took them off course when they were on such a beautiful journey together. And one of the things I noticed was that one of the people was a real giver. I mean, they both were actually. But because this one, it was actually the man was in really giver mode, it put the woman into feminine receptive mode in order to receive him, which is really the most wonderful thing you can do for a person when they want to love you, right? Because I went through a long, tedious marriage in which I attempted to love my husband and he would push my advances away. And that's really painful. So I learned, one of the greatest ways to love somebody is to receive their love, right? But in this situation, when at last the woman had something she did need to talk about, that was something that she was upset about, the man was quite upset because he was like, how could she be so thankless after all I gave, right? And she had been along the way sort of directing him with, these are the things that work for me. They were just getting to know each other. And he was like, everything she would bring up, he'd be like, maybe I could do that. And then he would meet the challenge, right? And meet the challenge. So over all these different things she was saying that she needs in a relationship, he was probably pushing himself pretty hard. But what he didn't know is that she wasn't saying, give me this now, or at this high level of perfectionism. She was just trying to let him in on the big story. She saw him as somebody they could walk up the big mountain together over longevity, right? She saw him as somebody who, if she gave him the roadmap, eventually they would get there because she was already there in her heart. But he didn't know that. He thought he was having to prove himself to her high standards. And so when this thing came up that she was upset about, he was like totally blown away and thought that she was saying she wasn't thankful, didn't see everything he'd given. And she was so disoriented because she was like, wait a second, I already loved you. Like, there was no proving you had to do. I already loved you. You won me way back when, in all these other subtle ways that weren't sexual or social or, you know, being a great host or any of that. You won me back there with how we related and intermingled as souls. And he wasn't able to believe her. He really didn't believe her. And that was so shocking that he went into this thing of, like, when she asked for one thing, he went into this thing of she wants these impossible standards because he'd already pushed himself so hard. So what I want to say is, like, unconditional love, like, there's this aspect of it that we can embody, and there's a part that we also can't, because we're in this place of as adults, as needing certain exchanges in order to be in balance, right? And but I think that if people would just not, it was the same thing that I keep seeing over and over again. They were doing texting and they were doing voice messages, which are static and don't exchange with each other. There's no voice nuance. There's no heart resonance. It's all through machines. And it's that thing where AI seems so perfect. It seems like, well, you wrote that, so that's what you said, and that's what you meant. And you said that in your message, so it means this, but it's not an exchange. And as soon as we're in robot mode, which is mechanical and it's one thing at a time, it's sort of isolated, you know, um, then we're not in human mode, because human relationships are relating, they're relational, they're not static. And so countless times over and over again this week, this month, in my own life, I see people's beautiful relationships completely destroyed simply because they're not willing to be human, and they like the convenience of expressing emotions through emoticons and expressing their thoughts, like a long diatribe of thought, you know, through writing, which is solo. It's solo. And you know that feeling, it's more risk-taking when you're in on the phone, or you see their video chat and you're in exchange, and there's a more humbleness there, because you know you can't just say I love you, I love you, I love you, you know, like you can with little emojis and stuff. You actually have to feel it when you say it. But I just want to say that unconditional, you know, that love we seek, it's so much more there than we realize. We have projected so much fear onto each other. We have taken things the wrong way, and we've been unwilling to simply relate. And you will uncover, if you go back and call that person, if you visit them, if you just show up at their door, maybe if they're blocking you, because the illusions, the veils of hate and fear and distrust and projection onto each other through robot mode is what we're about to face planetarily, is a lot more AI taking over us. And if we don't hang on to our connectedness, our interrelational speaking, sharing, touching, holding, looking in each other's eyes when we relate, if we don't hold on to that with all our might, we will find ourselves, well, suicidal as a whole society. So what is the unconditional love at this point? What is love? Where can you find it? In relationship. Not in texting, not in emojis, not even in little voice messages. No. It does exist. You can find it in relationships, relating. Call each other, damn it. If you have a fight, realize that's when it's all begun. That's when you're just beginning to build trust. That's when you're just beginning to reveal the real you. When you see somebody's anger, think of it as a privilege, and don't cut them out of your life the moment you feel afraid. You know, that's the moment when you get to possibly break through into finding this unbelievable love that's underneath the surface of all of your fears and projections and ideologies and sentiments that are critical of the other person before asking questions. It's that thing of like, you know, you didn't bring home the pizza, so you don't love me. My mom went through this on a trip when I was little, where she, you know, for my other mother, forgot the coffee pot. Like, my other mother had packed the entire universe for us to live for a month at this chalet, this beach resort place. It was so amazing, but she forgot the coffee pot. My mom was like, you don't love me. You know. But then you find out, oh, they didn't bring the pizza because they went to the pizza place, and this time there was no gluten-free, and then they got in a traffic jam, and then they tried to get something else, and then they tried to get something else. Now they're an hour late because they tried to please you so well. And you're thinking, they don't love me, they're ungrateful, they never remember. And so how do we like get out of this place of this frozen ideology about each other that has destroyed the actual connection you had, which was personal, incredibly wonderful? And now you're not believing that because you're believing robot mode more. Oh yeah, but the way they sent that emoji, or the way their voice sounded on that text, you believe that more than the entire week of joy and happiness you had together. Come on, reverse it. You gotta, I mean, it's insane, right? But this is how trained we are to believe in writing. Like the Africans will say that of Burkina Faso. I was learning from Malidoma Somé and Sabanfo Somé for a while, and one of the things that they talked about was that as soon as things go into writing, as at least Americans or Western people, they believe it. If it's not in writing, they don't believe it. And the thing about writing is that usually people write down things in order to forget them, so they don't have to remember them anymore. Whereas the griot sings the history of and all of the connections of the world that have been passed on for 3,000 years through their song. They're singing to remember, right? They're writing. They're not writing. They're speaking. They're sharing directly to remember. So we need to remember the actual time we shared together and trust that. Trust that. Now, if it's the opposite, if in the time you share with them it's horrible and the texting is wonderful, okay, that you just get out of there, would you? But if the time is amazing, why would you doubt experiential knowing that's direct? Why? Because that's feminine. And everything on the feminine spectrum right now, we are trying to systematically annihilate so that we can go with entirely with masculine prerogatives and the whole robotic world as replacement for the feminine, for heart, for spirit, for emotion, for body. And because we've been so trained in that since little, like a lot of the younger generation now, even people in their 40s, they were raised in computer mode, even in their sexuality. So, to get those people to come over and trust their heart, to trust spirit, to trust relating, it's like we're not very practiced. That's what it is. We're not practiced. So we think because we're so alone in our computer voyage and our inner space and our sacred relationship with our life on our own as solo people, we think we're so evolved until we get in relation with another human being, and then we're triggered and we're being our worst self, and we're like, wait a second, that's not who I am. I don't have that image of myself. I thought I was loving, and we were being cruel, really cruel. But it's just because of not having practice, and it's also because of not staying in relation and then going back to robot mode, which we're used to in isolation. And yes, it's true that in some relationships it's not healthy and it's not safe, and insular time alone in meditation is much better than being in a relationship like that. You might as well not bother. Like, really, come on, just get out. But if you meet somebody and there's so many wonderful things, and then some mistake happens, or they do something you don't like, aren't we allowed to do a few things we don't like of each other and call each other on it and be thankful for the opportunity that somebody cares that we don't like something, that somebody cares that they want us to grow? Yes. We're allowed to grow. We're allowed to be thankful for our challenges. We're allowed to not be perfect. And that's the thing I want to go back to the unconditional love about, which is that in this situation with these two young lovers, is that the idea the man had that he had to be perfect was so not where the woman was at all. She was just like, I already love you, flaws and all. I already am in the story of getting to know you, and that's what I love, is the process of getting to know you and find out the things that don't work and work on them. So I hope I haven't spoken too long. May you have a wonderful day, and bless you on your sacred way. See if you can get a little more personally involved, okay? Don't cut off from everybody with a bunch of thoughts that have no relationship in real relating. Real relating will reveal many, many hundreds of things that you didn't know. All kinds of things that you're presuming aren't even true because you're not in relationship, except for only being in relationship to your own fears and your own mind process of paranoia. And if they're rude, when you come to them with like, hey, I'm upset about this and I feel unseen or unloved, then maybe you're not in a safe space. But if you get related to with this person of like, wow, I never meant that. That's nowhere close to what I was trying to say. I'm so sorry, but this is what I do need still, because this happened that felt really, really scary to me. Then you're lucky. See, you're blessed. That's a good person for you if they're willing to relate subtle details of what they're not happy with. Doesn't mean they don't love you. Doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or do better. You don't even have to do better. Just listen. Just listen, because the doing better happens on its own through our natural growing by hearing each other and just settling in with what we've heard. Huh. Okay, blessings. Much love, darling.